I swear, as soon as I start one of these things, there's a plane, there's a train. I think there's 2 planes. Whatever. What's up? This is Joshua, MVA studio, Minneapolis, recording live from the backyard, lilac bushes, and all types of environmental interference. Well, I don't talk about the stuff that's bad. If me, that took part in critiques when I was a student, like in my early 20s, saw the way that I critique now, I'd probably be disgusted with myself. But of course, me now looks back at me at 22 and thinks, dude, you took this shit way too seriously and you need to chill out. Let's break that apart a little bit. At some point, I realized a couple of things. One, I had terrible students that had jobs. So I teach in a post-bac program. So it's people who have a bachelor's degree, and then for whatever reason, they're going back to school for a 2-year program. And what I found kind of again and again was like most of these people had a design job already. Now, was it the greatest design job ever? Maybe not, but if they were happy, it didn't really matter. And you'd think like younger me would have been like, oh my God, this person's terrible. And then older me is going, I think this person's terrible, and they have no problem becoming gainfully employed. Maybe the things that I think are so important aren't nearly as important as I think they are. So there's a lot of talk about what you're supposed to teach in a design program, for example, or a creative program of any kind. Is it foundation level skills? Is it good taste? Is it industry standards? And what I end up seeing is that there's always a bazillion counter arguments that all that shit doesn't matter. That realization made me chill out. And then the other thing was the realization that that everything sucks and everyone has bad taste. So my kind of humble belief is that I in general should hate my students' work. In general, they should hate my work. And the reason that I think that is that they should have really high standards, and because they have high standards, they should think most things suck. But the difference, the sort of 90-10 of like 90% of the stuff in the world sucks, is gonna be what's the 10% that they think is good. So like the 10% that I think is good, I'm fully fine if you think like the unbelievably, like I love the most, like there's this book, the Swiss graphic design, or a history of Swiss graphic design, or whatever it's called. It's by Richard Hollis. My favorite examples could easily be considered the worst examples in the book. I think you could argue they're uninspired, but I just love the cold, icy shit that's one font and one size and almost zero hierarchy. There's just something about it like that I find so utterly compelling. So I don't blame anybody if they see my taste in graphic design and they're like, you're an idiot. Like, this shit that you like sucks. And so I kind of feel like I'm not supposed to like the students' work. What I'm supposed to do is help those students be more themselves. So I should set up projects that put them in the realm of making portfolio work that's going to get them the kind of work that they do, but stylistically and aesthetically and conceptually, they should do them. And my interest in giving them more processes to work with is simply to give them a bigger toolkit to make stuff. But I don't want it to be predictable, and I don't want it to be like across the board, like, oh, you can tell that it was made in one of my classes. I really don't want there to be any semblance beyond, oh, that's that film festival assignment? Isn't that a thing that Joshua does? I'm fine with that. But what I would hate is for somebody just to see a graphic and be like, oh, that must be that film festival thing that Joshua does. That shit always looks the same. To me, that's whack. It's the height of uninspired weakness. It's like ideological, agenda-driven kind of nonsense. It's kind of harsh. But the goal is that to improve a skill set that lets them be more them. I think way too many teachers are trying to teach good taste. They're trying to teach some foundation level idea of what an industry is like, but all that does is make your students predictable or fake. I think what's special is what each person finds interesting, and that there should be a lot more emphasis in graphic design programs on cutting away their ideological bullshit, whether it's style or whether it's how you approach a concept or whether it's content or whatever it might be. And the job should be let the student kind of blossom into the thing that they're going to be. Because like, I know for me, I still have the same interest that I've had for, I don't know, 30 years now. Like, I give a fuck about skateboarding, punk rock, rap, metal, art, and typography. That's the stuff I care about. That's still the stuff I'm interested in. That's still the stuff that I work with. I've done other stuff. I've worked successfully on signage for a fucking Petco or whatever. But that's not what I'm focused on. And I think if anything, I may have had a vision that what I was supposed to do in terms of being a graphic designer was abandon this stuff that kind of makes me tick. And the reality is that, like, what makes me special as a creative is the combination of stuff that is me. The inability to focus for a long period of time, the ADD, the Japanese noise, the metal, the skateboarding, the fascination with cults, the weird Wikipedia holes I go down, all that stuff. That's the stuff that's special. That's the stuff that should come out. And it always weirds me out. I think it's sad that so many designers have to go to grad school to unlearn what they learned as an undergrad. That's absurd. That's such a dumb idea. That is such an argument against undergraduate programs. The idea that you would have to unlearn anything is such a danger. Or the idea that your undergrad is so fucking pointless that you learned how to become a designer on the job. And then everyone has this because it's a pyramid scheme to try to make sure that everyone keeps paying for school or whatever, art school. Then they go like, yeah, but we make you well-rounded. When, like, being well-rounded is awful. Like, it's the least desirable quality in a human being is well-rounded. Well-adjusted, interesting, fun to be around, but well-rounded, like, who do you know that's well-rounded and interesting? What's interesting is obsessive, multi-hyphenate, eccentric, idiosyncratic. That's interesting. Well-rounded is like how you end up in the road to, like, middle manager in corporate America. You don't want that shit. So that's not a good argument. And then it's like a lot of the arguments for art school are they're just these, like, ideological positions of what value it brings. And the reality is, like, you shouldn't need to undo it, and you shouldn't need to learn how to work on the job. And I certainly had to learn how to work on the job. And it's funny because, like, what I end up grasping onto, and I think I've talked about this before, is little tiny glimpses of assignments that were exactly what I needed to do. And the sad fact is those were 5% of what I did throughout my educational experience, whether it was community college or a design program. The number of things I could really use were actually quite limited. Maybe what's worse is the things I learned from those experiences. I didn't learn anything. It just illuminated stuff about myself. And I think that's one of the dangers of thinking that you're teaching anything, is because half the time you're not teaching, you're just creating an experience that's resonant in the students. So that's kind of why I'm anti-critique. If that, it's not that I'm anti-critique, but it's like I feel like way too much effort is put into it.